Hello everybody and welcome to another RCT2 review. Today we have a nice little design by Roomie. This is Centurion 225. This unfortunately failed to get design on New Element, but I think it was pretty cool. And I definitely like the source material, so I'm going to feature it on the channel anyway, if I can do that. So this is a nice little park, like I said. The coaster here, if you are familiar with coasters, you probably already recognize it. This is based on DC Rivals HyperCoaster at Warner Brothers in Australia. So we're gonna take a look at this as we jump on. Pretty simple, realistic type design. What I like about the coaster is it is really long, and it somehow manages to maintain the pacing incredibly well through the whole thing. You see our nice queue line here, a little bit of overflow queue. Kind of throws you off a little bit with the quarter queue on this side, since it doesn't feel like it would fit based on the regular queue on this side. I'm not usually a huge fan of the jumping back and forth between the two, but I do like there's some overflow queue shown. Let's take a look at the ride. Nice kind of slow lift hill up, decent support work. Using the Mach Mega Coaster trains that I think X7 made. Around to get a better view for the rest of the ride. We start with this great drop into a nice long airtime hill, curving into this outwardly banked airtime hill, and then this non-inverting loop, which is surprisingly nice looking. I haven't generally found those to look good in RCT, but that one looks good. Have our Immelman here, which is, whether it can be seen as an inversion or more of just a kind of big twisted turnaround hill. Either way, nice drop here underneath the bridge, and then a little double down over here, getting some great airtime. Another hill on this side, and then turn around to these final airtime hills. Like I said, this is a really long ride, 5,420 feet, which is huge, but certainly works, certainly looks good, and it's pretty impressive. And I like the way that it kind of nestles this whole area, almost comes all the way back to the station before it turns around and goes back the other way. And it wouldn't be a Roomie park if there wasn't a crazy ride hack. So this is kind of neat. This is a custom ride, tilting freefall cars, but you can see that the ride vehicles are tilting as we're going up, and once we get to the top, they're going to drop down, and then as they drop down, they will swing outwards before they land. So super cool idea, definitely like Falcon's Fury or the other one at Gronalund that Intamin has made. So pretty neat designs overall. I think that's cool. It's 4 separate rides here tied into the one, so definitely some shoestringing fun. But looks good overall. A little bit tight here on the drop. I definitely would keep my legs in perhaps, but very nicely done through that space. So around the middle here, this lake, we have some little bits and pieces of architecture. On the whole, generally kind of simplistic, all tied together with some common themes, common colors anyway, and common materials. So that definitely looks nice. I think you can definitely get a little bit more refinement here and there. Don't forget your benches and things like that. But I think it does look nice, anchored by this another custom ride here that has some undulating up and down. I don't quite know what the ride is meant to be as far as real rides go, but I don't know flat rides very well, so escaping me at the moment. Then you have this cool staircase on either side to the bridge across, which I think is very nicely positioned here, where you have the airtime hill above and the little drop below. Definitely looks cool on that. As we get to the outside, the architecture definitely improves. So we have a nice little building here, a pretty cool structure here. It's gotten a little bit taller compared to the rest of the things here as we start adding some peaked roofs and things like that. There's a very it feels almost Robbie 92-esque building on the side. A couple of folks watching the coaster here, which I do appreciate. And then a swing ride here. So a little bit simple as far as architecture and just area site development goes. Clearly the design is about the coaster itself, which I think is sort of an old school New Element mentality, which I do generally subscribe to, is that the design is about the coaster and not really much else. I do think the surroundings are nice and worth looking at and kind of taking in, but the coaster itself is really what I'm interested in. So the real coaster actually has two cars that face backwards on the thing, and I know Roomie and I had talked about potentially doing a backwards car on this with Visual Studio, but I think we decided against that in the end. But kind of a neat trick, especially if you know how to do that for it. So really cool to see, but lots of nice little details here. We've got our transfer track in here. Got our maintenance building in the back here with all the different parts and pieces and the little couple of maintenance vehicles, a staff car, and things like that in the back. Almost sort of the stuff you expect as a standard deal when parks are going now. There's definitely a kind of level set of expectation, I think, as far as basic detailing goes on things like this, especially ones that tend to look a little more realistic throughout. But definitely pretty cool. I do like the park and the ride itself. I mean, definitely the coaster is the star of the show here, and has a pretty strong layout overall. It's just really long for kind of the main thing. I think on some of these hills, I'd probably extend them a little bit. I tend to go more more elongated than not, but you know, that's personal preference. I think, you know, especially if you are newer to the game or more scenario play based, I think this kind of style looks a little bit better for some of these hills towards the end. But you know, for me, I find that the stretching it out a little bit more generally helps the look a little bit. But you know, to each their own. I don't think this looks bad by any means. And like I said, I think it's a pretty strong layout overall. Love the interaction, especially with the return run here, where we're going to wrap through the non-inverting loop and then have these crossovers back and forth, and this sort of twisted airtime hill that goes across on this side, and lots of little parts and pieces here. It's honestly amazing to me that the ride maintains its speed as well as it does through the whole thing, because it still hits the brake run with a little bit of juice, and it's pretty impressive. But you know, that's I think that's really all we have. But definitely a cool little design, definitely worth checking out, especially if you're into coaster designs like this one. So definitely take a look. This is Centurion 225 by Roomie. And as always, if you have suggestions or parks you want to see reviewed, feel free to drop me a line in the comments and I will take a look. So until next time, thank you very much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye, guys.